Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Who's Your Band podcast. We have two great guests today from the Billy Joel Band. One of my favorite drummers of all time, Mr. Liberty DeVitto.
Thank you.
And from Sirius XM Radio, comedian Joe Currie.
Hey, how's it going? Nice to be a very good company with Liberty DeVitto. Very big fan, sir.
I'm expected to laugh a lot today.
Good.
Well, don't with us three assholes, believe me.
Yeah, don't set your bar too high.
And everybody, you guys know the wonderful, good-looking, dim-witted Sean Morton.
Yeah.
Well, welcome,
we'll go
guys.
with good-looking, not dim-witted. We'll be nice.
He's not dim-witted, and he's good. I love Sean. He's my favorite guy. But let's get right into this, man. Let's talk a little bit of music. Liberty, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. I mean, it's great to be here. And like I always say, it's great to be anywhere in this pandemic,
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. So my first question to you is, what got you into music? Like, you're a kid in Long Island, some kids gravitate towards sports, you gravitated towards music. What got you into music?
I always loved music. But when I went
At what age? What age would you?
I was mowing lawns at 8 years old and going to the record store and buying 45s.
Do you remember what you used to buy?
The first record I ever bought was the Book of Love by the Monotones. The record I ever bought, yeah. And I continued to buy records. I loved Dion. It was like one of my favorite singers. The Orlons from Philadelphia, loved their sound. But it wasn't until I got in 8th grade, and I noticed that all the girls liked the sports guys. So I tried to play sports, but I just sucked at it. I couldn't do it. So music, the Beatles, of course, were on the Ed Sullivan Show. And that was it for me. I saw all these girls screaming for them, and I said, that's what I want to do, man. I want to make a million girls scream.
The Beatles were your first influence.
Yeah. Well, my dad bought me drums because a cousin of mine was selling them. And I asked him later on in life, why did you buy me a drum set? He said, because they didn't make Prozac when you were a kid.
So you're a little kid, your dad brings you drums. Did you have to, because I played the drums as well in high school, and I remember I had to go for drum lessons. Did you take lessons, or was it something that just kind of came to you?
No, I went for lessons. In the 6th grade, I went and joined the school band, and I couldn't do the buzz roll in the Star Spangled Banner. So the teacher put me on the bass drum. Boring. So, that was it. And then when I saw the Beatles, it was like, I forget the buzz roll. I want to do that. I want to tour the world with my friends.
And you practiced every day?
Yeah, I practiced the records. Records became my books. And so I'm self-taught, But yeah, I used to play to those Beatle records and all the other records that I loved. Easier said than done by the Essex, had a great drum fill in it. It just went, digga. Got that down. It was great. I saw her standing there. It was too fast in the beginning. I couldn't play that. It was too fast. But, you build up to it.
And do you remember, when you're 6th grade, you're starting, you're playing, you're practicing all the time. When did you form your first band?
Oh, it was right the day after the Beatles were on the Ed Sullivan Show. Day after. I talk about it in the book, how a friend of mine, I didn't even know him from high school, from junior high school, walked in the backyard of a friend's where I was hanging out that day, and he had a trench coat on, and he was wearing all black. He had his hair parted on the side like Paul McCartney did. And I said, hey, you want to be in a band? And he said, I don't even play anything. I said, I don't care. You look like Paul McCartney. Come on. And he went and got a bass guitar.
You'll learn.
Yeah.
What was that? Do you remember your first couple of songs? Do you remember the first set?
Well, we did instrumentals. First thing was instrumentals. We did a lot of adventure stuff. Walk Don't Run, Perfidia, Diamond Head, stuff like that. And it was cool. But then when we wanted to play a school dance, they said we needed to get a singer. So there was this guy who was an upperclassman, and we kind of bribed him to sing with us. And it was cool, but then he didn't want to hang around with us anymore because, he was older than we were. And we were only 14 maybe? He was a senior in high school already. So that sucked. Yeah.
And you played throughout high school, and you wind up, it's probably pretty cool because you're meeting girls and everything. So do you wind up you're getting good because you're practicing all the time. Do you remember the first pro gig you got paid for?
Oh, yeah. Well, the first band that I was in, the guy that came into the backyard, right? His father was the president of the Teamsters Union in New York. The truck drivers, and he used to make us play at their parties when they would have a party. So we had kind of a captive audience because the Teamsters Union was kind of this way.
Yeah, nice Jewish fellow, huh?
Yeah. So we had a captive audience, and we used to pass the hat. Actually, the president of the Teamsters Union used to walk around with the hat. Hey, come on, the kids are trying to make some money.
I think as performers, I think we all kind of remember that. Joe, do you remember the first gig you got paid for as a comedian?
Yeah, I was doing an MC spot, at one of the local clubs, and the funny thing is, it's like it's like you're doing what you like, and you're getting paid.
I'm sorry, but when you say local, you're in Long Island?
Yeah, Long Island, yeah, Long Island. So yeah, you're doing what you love, and you're getting paid for it, and I love doing stand-up so much. Don't get me wrong, you got to cover the overhead. But the money is secondary. I think Liberty might agree. Like when you're starting out, and the money's secondary just to doing it. Because I also play in 3 bands myself, and sometimes you go out, you make little money, but just to go out and do one of your original songs is just an amazing thing.
It's funny you say that, because I always say to kids when they say, I just want to make enough money to be able to eat. I say, don't say that. You want to make money.
Yeah.
You're limiting yourself. Don't do that.
Yeah. I always say if you're going to make money at night, just go work for UPS, because if you're going into entertainment, it ain't going to happen. Not for a while, at least.
Right.
I've been doing this with Sean for a little bit of a while here. I don't know, Sean, when was the first time you ever got paid for something? Do you remember?
My path was very different. So I was like on the road within like 6 months. So I was like, I was emceeing on the road in about 6 months. But I got to tell you, I made more money in comedy in the first 2 years that I was doing it than I did in 10 years in a band.
Wow.
Which was amazing, because all I'm basically saying is we didn't make a goddamn penny in a band in 10 years either. It was just horrible. I got to tell you though, Liberty, I give you all the credit in the world, because I sang in a band, but I could screw around on guitar for a little bit, and I can play around on the bass. But when it came to the drums, I would always get annoyed at my drummer, and I would throw him out of the seat. Like, no, this is what I want to do. This is how I want it to go. And I would play all the fills on top. And he's like, asshole, there's no bass drum. And I'm like, oh shit. I can't. If I didn't have to do a bass drum at all, I would be the greatest drummer on the planet. By far. It's the whole brain going to my foot thing. It drives me insane. I can't even play Highway to Hell. It is the hardest instrument in the world for me to play.
I got to tell you, there are drummers that play with no bass drum, and you see them in the Macy's Day Parade every year.
Yeah.
So Liberty, you're getting good. You're I guess you're making a name for yourself. You're playing in cover bands. How do you wind up meeting Billy Joel and joining the band? Do you have to audition? Did he know of you? Was there the legend of Liberty DeVitto out in Long Island?
The legend. That's hilarious. No, I was continuing to play with bands. I would go from one band to another, and I was always the youngest guy in the band. So the older guys, they knew more than I did, and they would teach me, so I was learning as I was going along. And then when I was 17 years old, I was playing in a band called the New Rock Workshop, which we played in this place called the My House in Plainview. And another band played there, and we played together sometimes. It was called the Hassles, and Billy was in the Hassles, but he was known as Billy Joe then. And that's the first time I ever saw him. And we used to just pass in the dark and say hi. But I used to watch his band, and I thought, wow, this guy's pretty good, and we both liked the same kind of music. So when I finally got to audition for him, it was easy because I was already, Doug Stegmeyer plays bass. He played bass in a band with me. So I was friends with Doug already. I was hanging out for months with Billy's tour manager. You know, it's all about how many drinks you can have in a night, who you can hang with and stuff like that. So I had that going for me. So playing the drums, I knew I was confident in doing that, but I already had the hang, you know? So when Billy told his tour manager to go in the control room, we did it at Columbia Records, the audition, and to give him a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I knew I was going to get a thumbs up because the tour manager kept saying, "We got to get you in the band, man. You're a great guy to hang out with. We got to get you in the band." You know, so it was kind of like that. It was more of a hang thing than a playing thing, you know. So that's how it happened.
He was already signed by CBS Records at that point, then, right?
Yeah, he was. He had 2 albums out. He had Piano Man and Street Life Serenader out, and we did Turnstiles. When we went in, he was barely hanging on to the contract, and Turnstiles only sold 50,000 copies because Billy decided to produce it himself, and it's got great songs on it, but the record company didn't get behind it. So Stranger was going to be his last shot on the record with the company. And luckily, you know, he got us together and got Phil Ramone involved, the producer.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about, Liberty. That's exactly where I wanted to go with this. Is The Stranger actually becomes Billy Joel's breakout album, and
Right.
You played on that album. I wanted to ask you, what do you remember about working with legendary producer Phil Ramone?
Oh, well, the first thing I remember is that the first person who was asked to be producer was George Morton, you know, Beatles' George Morton. And he told Billy he wanted to produce him, but he wanted to use studio musicians. And Billy said, you know, "Love me, love my band," and turned him down. And then Phil was signed producer to Columbia Records. So Phil was chosen to do the production. And Phil was great. He came to see us at Carnegie Hall. And he told us after a meeting after the show, he said, "I want you to be the rock and roll animals that you are when you come into the studio." You know, he showed us how to put that under control, you know, how to control that. But we were still the rock and roll animals that he loved. He didn't want us to play like studio guys. When I first walked in the studio, the engineer couldn't get a sound on me because I was playing so hard. Phil had to do it, you know. So it was a great match. We called him Uncle Phil. We loved him so much.
It seems very interesting. You know, you said that for that live feel. I've noticed a lot of bands, when they put out the live album, the live versions sound a lot better than the studio. Cheap Trick comes to mind. Kiss comes to mind. Where those songs,
even the Billy Joel song, even that Billy, the Miami song, that's why the lights go out on Broadway.
That sound, the live version of that tune is phenomenal.
That's because there's no limitation. We're playing live. We're entertaining. It depends on how many girls are in the front row. You know, yeah, you can go for it. You go for it. It's the energy of the crowd. You're playing off the energy. You know, you get a laugh. The next joke is going to be funnier. You know, it's an exchange. It's the same thing. I was listening to a podcast between Bono and Chris Rock. Did you hear that yet on the YouTube channel? And Chris Rock says, comedy is just like songs. You have the verse, and then there's the bridge where you get big, and, you know, and then there's a chorus, which is huge, and you know that you're going to bring the house down with your chorus. You know, it's the same thing with music. We do the same thing.
It's. I think comedy and music are very numbers oriented. It's the cadence, it's the, you know, it's the rhythm to it. I think that's the similarity. Hey, Joe, real quick, why do people call you Plankfoot?
Well, the reason was, when I was a kid, I was in my buddy's garage. I used to wear Herman Survivors, those big work boots. Had a size 13 boot, and I'm stamping my foot to this Marshall Tucker song, and dust is coming up under my foot like a plank. So my buddy goes, "Look at that guy! Holy smokes, we're going to be calling him Plankfoot." And that's been over 40 years. So it's been shortened to Foot. But yeah, that's the story.
What size were those boots?
Size 13.
I like the questions we're asking Liberty, and then the Joe Currie question is, why is Plankfoot?
I have a question.
I'm very humbled to be in the same company as Liberty, so yeah, I don't mind.
I have a question for Liberty, and I want an honest, true answer. Okay, and I've always wanted to ask somebody this who's been in a band for as many years as you are. Did you ever get the set list and you look at it and you go, "Not this fucking song again"?
You know how many times? How many times do you think you could play Piano Man?
Exactly.
Oh, I don't even like the song. You know, another one, My Life. I don't like My Life either. And
yeah, it just reminds me of Tom Hanks running down the street in drag.
Exactly. You know,
how do you stay interested?
Well, like I said, you line the front row with great looking girls. What we actually used to do was Billy would hold the first 2 rows of tickets, and the crew right before the show started would go up way in the back and find like good looking girls and say, hey, you want to come down to the front, sit in the front? So we'd you know, pack the first 2 rows with great looking girls. And you know, I could still see Billy's face, like we turn the lights on, and all of a sudden he's looking at me going, whoa, you know, wow, yeah, you know,
that's great.
Like Piano Man all night.
Yeah. Did you guys ever prank Billy and just like fill the front row with like maybe Bloods and Crips?
Yes. Yeah. I actually fill it with gay guys and stuff.
Beautiful.
That's great.
Speaking of playing, man, you know, what's it like being a kid from Long Island and playing Madison Square Garden on New Year's Eve, Shea Stadium, Yankee Stadium, like, you know, and when you do that, do you bring a date to something like that? Because that's pretty much like a panty dropper, right? I mean, the girls are going to be impressed by that.
Well, you know, it's really, I personally like playing like clubs and small theaters better than playing those kind of places, because you only see the first 2 rows. I can't see past that. Yeah. You know, it's just a lot of people out there. Like, you know, no, it's really weird. You want to have interaction with the audience, and you will in a club or a theater. You know, just like comedy, you want interaction, just like anything else. You're saying something. You want to be able to see somebody's eyes and how they're reacting. In a big place like Giant Stadium, forget it. You can't see anybody.
What was your favorite era of being in the band?
Oh, I'd have to say probably the beginning. You know, like Return to Stranger, 52nd Street.
Okay.
Then it got started to get crazy. You know. Then at the end, like it was like, you know, everybody was going their own way. Billy would go separately with his tour manager, and you know, the band would be together. Yeah, started to be like, it's work.
I know for us, you know, Joe, Sean, like I love performing in Manhattan, going down McDougal Street, and you know, the energy of that. It almost feels like you're at Mardi Gras, like all the time. And you know, and like you see people online waiting to get into the club, and you know that they're waiting online to, you know, to watch you perform. And that's like a club in like a small club in New York City, like a Greenwich Village Comedy Club or something like that. But can you imagine you're going to like I worked on those shows, Liberty, when you guys toured with Elton John, okay? Yeah. And I mean, over 100,000 people, and you're driving up in your van, you know, and you get out, and that energy, like, what's that got to feel to you? Like, that's got to be massive. Are you overwhelmed? Are you nervous? Like, how do you feel on something like that?
Well, I'm not nervous, because you know, it's the same drum set. Just, you know, like it's like getting in a space capsule. You know, you're excited that you're doing it, but it's that same capsule you've been practicing on all that time. But like walking in, I played the bitter end, the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. I played every time. Going into the bitter end and seeing it crowded, and just being able to look at the people and stand next to the people that are going to be watching you play is more exciting to me than going backstage and looking at the cold cut platter in the dressing room. And, you know, I like that better. I like the intimacy better than the big place. The big place was to make money.
Makes sense. How about in 1987?
Let me say that. Big place was so Billy could make
money. Duly noted. 1987, though, man, you know, milestone, I guess, in all you guys' career, you wind up going to Russia to perform. You know, can you describe that experience? Was that overwhelming? I mean, did that, I mean, get you out of your comfort zone? I mean, you know, how was that? How you handle that?
Listen, all went to school, and I know that when I went to school, we had to hide under our desk because the Soviets were gonna like bomb us, drop bombs on us, like the desk was gonna save our lives. But you know, I thought when I went there that I was gonna meet these three-headed dragons that breathe fire, you know, and I'm thinking to myself, man, we're going behind that wall that keeps their people in, and they want to keep people out. So they put a wall up. You know, it's like, how paranoid are they? And I'm going there, and my name's Liberty. It's like, what am I, crazy? You know? But, you know, when you travel the world, people are people everywhere. They're everywhere, you know, and you get to meet them. The best way to find out what people are really like is to sit down and have a meal with somebody, you know, and then you find out that nobody wants a war, you know. They might be pissed off about something that we're doing in our country, but they don't want a war. It's like, can't you see, like, can't these governments like settle this? Can't they get together and just knock it out on paper? Why did you know?
You're asking that question in these times right now? Our government's going to settle. We can't settle anything right now. I don't know about you guys. I have no faith in government at any level at this point.
I don't either. And it's really a shame. I mean, because when I was in the Soviet Union, I stood there, I think it was in Leningrad, and I just looked up at the sky and I said, it's the same sky that's over our country. It's the same thing, you know? And it was like, why are we doing this shit? You know, it's crazy. You know,
I tell you that was I tell you, when the song Leningrad is such a beautiful song. You're almost in tears, you know, by the end of the tune. It was such a beautiful tune you guys did.
And that was exactly what it was like. We never knew what friends we had in Leningrad because we were afraid. We were afraid of everybody, you know. Now I see in museums that pieces of the wall, and I think, wow, I was on the other side of that plane. You know, it's funny. I did amazing, last night with on the Beatles channel, you know, because Paul McCartney's putting out a box set of Flowers in the Dirt, and
great album.
I did a track with him in '86, and it's on that album. It's in that box.
You played on Flowers in the Dirt?
I played on a track that he recorded at that time.
Okay.
It's called Beautiful Night. Actually, Ringo's version got on his album, but I did it too before Ringo did it. And now he's releasing that in this box set. So, you know, I was asked about what it was like to go to the Soviet Union, and the guys were saying, like, you guys played back in the USSR there before Paul actually got to play it there. You know?
That's very cool.
Hey Joe, you're a Long Island guy, like Liberty, yes. And Sean and I have talked about this with Jersey guests, but you know the music scene back in the day, like when you were like when we were growing up. Did you remember like the '80s, going to places like Hammerheads and going to see bands like Salty Dog or Rat Race Choir? Do you remember that type of thing?
Absolutely. I used to hang out at the Salty Dog on Friday nights. I used to hang out at the OBI and Chevy's on Saturday nights. My bands played at Cheers, Hammerheads, Neptunes, all the club. We played in a band called Quebec, and we had a lead singer that looked just like Steve Perry. This guy, Hugo Valente, looked just like him. And we used to have your own night. So you would, you know, we had like a steady Tuesday night gigs, you know, and those were the days when you weren't working the clubs, you were hanging out at the clubs. It was an amazing time. A debut night. I remember the debut night. I played with this band Quebec, which was essentially that Journey band at Cheers, 350 people. I knew that's what you would get on a debut night. And it's so sad the way it's gotten out, because my original band goes out and plays, and we'll open up for national acts, we'll open up for regular acts, and the club might have 50 people, where back in the day it was 450. So it's a shame that's where it is with live original music on the island now, you know?
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. When I was a kid, there was the Action House. You know, everybody used to go to this place in Oceanside called the Action. And I saw groups there. I saw Traffic there. I saw Blue Cheer there. I saw Chicago played a small stage when every band came around and played that place.
Yeah,
you know, I saw Hendrix at the Singer Bowl. It was Hendrix, Janis Joplin and Big Brother and the Holding Company, the Chambers Brothers, and one other band. It was insane. It was like $8, you know. But now you're absolutely right. I have a band, the Slim Kings. We do all original material. We can't get arrested.
No, you can't. But you know, the thing is that I also play in another cover band, but there's nothing like playing original music. You know, you write it, you rehearse it, and then you go play it, and people clap. You know, and even though it's tough to get a crowd, I don't think you can get a decent gig until you hit Maryland to get a live audience, to tell you the truth. But still, just that's what keeps my band going, just to write and play original music. You know, if I want to go make money, I'll join a cover band. But you know, still, there's nothing like it. It's amazing.
So let me ask you this: Liberty, Joe, you write a great original song. You go in the studio, you record it, it comes out perfect. It's a great song. How do you get exposure to it? You know, how do the masses get to hear it in 2020?
Well, today the thing to do is to get placements. You have to hire a person that takes your material and sends it to TV or movies and stuff like that. That's the only way to make money these days. You know, you can't sign a record deal because they do this 360 deal where they take everything. They want Buddy Dice, they want everything, because they're not making money anymore. Nobody's buying music. Everybody wants it for free.
Yeah.
So the music industry is basically, from when you started, has basically flip-flopped. It used to be you would make your money off of albums and go out and support the album by going on tour. Now you're making nothing really, like you said, on the album, and you have to make your money on the tour, on the merch, that type of stuff. So which means you're on the road a lot longer, working a lot harder, and probably making less money.
Yeah, you know, there's no support from radio anymore. You can't get, because Clear Channel owns like most of the radio stations in the country.
Yeah, them and Liberty, yeah.
Yeah, and they're programming everything. You know, I know the radio station in the city, Q104. You know, I'm good friends with everybody there, and they say they sit like a dozen people in a room, play a record, and then they see how these people react to it. And if it's a good reaction, they might play the record. You know, but it's an oldie. It's a Led Zeppelin tune. What Led Zeppelin tune do you want to hear? People know every Led Zeppelin song, you know, so they'll play.
How can new music get exposure? How can you write a song? It's a great song, and how could people hear it? Like, is radio out, and everything has to be grassroots now?
Well, it costs a lot of money to do AAA. AAA is the one underneath the major radio stations, you know. So you have to send it to AAA. The mailing is like ridiculous. You find a guy that knows all the people at these AAA stations, and you send it. You see if they start playing it, and if somebody else picks it up. But people are afraid to do anything these days. They're afraid of losing their jobs. Not like the old days. You used to play. When I was with Billy, you know, if you had a band, you play in a club, and an A&R guy from a record company would come down and go, "Wow, you guys are great. I want you in my office on Monday. We're going to sign you to a 3-record deal." You know, people would take chances like that. Nobody wants to do that anymore.
So if you're the Eagles, okay, you're an established band, is it even worth putting out a new album? Because, like, one, who's going to play it? Who's going to hear it? It sounds like the best thing to do. You go out, play greatest hits, give people what they want. You know, as an artist, it's unfulfilling, I guess. But you know, to survive, to make money, I guess that's the only way to kind of like go out and do something like that.
Well, to be honest with you, if I was in the Eagles, I would have quit a long time ago because I think they suck. But not my favorite band.
That's great.
But yeah.
So you played with one of the Eagles, didn't you?
What?
Didn't you play with Don Felder?
I did.
Okay.
But
he was always my favorite member of the Eagles, by the way.
Yeah, because he's wounded. he's only flying with one wing.
He's also a phenomenal guitar player.
He really is. He really is. He was a little, I would say, insecure because of, I guess, the traumatic breakup that they had. But anyway, yeah, like Elton John puts albums out all the time. I think it's just self-satisfying for him to do it because that's what he does. Mm-hmm. Billy's putting albums out, 20 years ago now? River of Dreams was his last record he put out. Yeah. He doesn't want to do it. He was discouraged by the business, and he didn't want to continue to expose himself, his life. So he said, forget it.
I'll tell you though, from a fan point of view too, like I can remember this concert I went to about 6 years ago. I went to see Iron Maiden, and they had just put out a new album, and I sat there and I watched them play the whole new album, and I'm looking at everybody going, "The fuck are they playing the Trooper?" You know what I mean? Like, and they play the whole new album, and then like they take an encore and play 2 songs. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's like you feel good that your favorite bands are still recording and making great music,
right?
But you also still want to hear the good, the greatest hits when you go see them in concert as well, too.
Yeah.
Well, what Maiden will do is they'll go, if they have a new album out, they'll play most of that album. So if you want to hear the hits, you have to go between albums. Like
but Maiden let you know that they're gonna play, that album.
Yeah, they do. But here's how stupid I am. I'm saying, they're full of shit. I'm still gonna go and watch the show. They ain't gonna play the whole album. And I go there and I'm scratching my ass after the 5th song. I'm like, all right.
Maiden has integrity, man. They're the best. We've spoke about this. They're my favorite band.
Let me tell you something. We all, the 4 of us here, come from a place where we always want to change. We want to change. When I was growing up, the Beatles in 1967 put out Sgt. Pepper, Magical Mystery Tour, and the single Strawberry Fields with Penny Lane on the other side. They did that in 1 year. Now it takes us an act 2.5 to 3 years to make an album. It's ridiculous. People are so drawn to the older stuff. When I was playing with Billy, we had to do Only the Good Die Young all the time. Still Rock and Roll and Me. And the end of the show got very boring. Very boring. Couldn't wait for it to be over. The same set all the time. We tried to do. I saw when we put out Stormfront, I saw the song Extremes when we would start it. The lines to go to the bathroom or get beer or something.
Why? That's a great song.
That's a great tune. That's a phenomenal song.
Now it's a great song.
It's up and everything. It's awesome.
We're the kind of people that want change. We get sick of the same thing on the radio, but as soon as change comes, we're not ready for it.
I got a gripe with the whole Stormfront album. I gotta tell you, I have a big gripe with this album.
You hate it, right?
No, I love the album. Here's the thing. I grew up with my uncle pushing Billy Joel on me. So I loved Billy for a long time. So like I'm the only one in my grade who knows who Billy Joel is. So here comes Stormfront, and I'm in 8th grade. So now We Didn't Start the Fire is this gigantic song. So like I'm playing it, and my teacher says to me, "What is that song?" Because she's only hearing every other word. So she listens to it and she goes, Sean, this is a great idea. What we're going to do is I'm going to take this song and I'm going to dissect it, and I'm going to take little bits and pieces out of it, and everybody's going to do a book report on one person or one phrase or event out of this song. And I'm like, this is great. I'm going to get one of the best ones. I'm thinking like, Harry Truman, or what I got? Dien Bien Phu Falls. That's what I had to write a goddamn book report on. I can't hear that song anymore without thinking of that bitch 8th grade teacher that I had.
Weird connection. Speaking of weird, Liberty, were you dancing in the Uptown Girl video?
No, I wasn't. I was snapping my fingers in the Longest Time video, though.
I love that. That's a great song. 50 styles. But you weren't singing into a wrench or anything?
No. No. Actually, I was on the road with Stevie Nicks when that was happening.
That's the other thing I wanted to ask you about. Besides Billy Joel, I mean, you're playing with some freaking legends, man. Stevie Nicks, Meatloaf, Carly Simon. But the person I wanted to ask you the most about was Karen Carpenter. You worked with her. Describe that, man. What was that like? And did she play the drums? And what did you think of her as a drummer?
She did play my drum set, and when I found out that Ron Tutt was the one that played on all those Carpenter songs, it wasn't her. I used studio guys, and she wasn't bad. I mean, she wasn't bad, but I could see why they didn't use her in the studio. But live, she cut it. She was good. She was a great girl, and she had a great sense of humor. I mean, when the album finally came out, the New York Times did a review on it, and they said that Phil Ramone hooked Karen Carpenter up with a bunch of Billy Joel's hooligans, and it was
guys
true.
Were the hooligans.
She got so pissed at me. The Christmas album had just come out by the Carpenters, And I drew all over the front of it, put beards on them and berets and stuff. And she got so pissed at me. We worked really hard on this. Look what you did. You defaced the album, you know? It's like, whoa.
But no, man, you haven't lost it at all. I mean, I remember you as when I was growing up watching you play, and you know, you stood out in that band. You and I think it was Mark Rivera. And then now you're in a band called the Lords of 52nd Street, and you're still pounding better than ever before. The guy who's playing piano, the guy who plays sax are amazing.
Well, it's Richie Canada plays sax. He's the one that played on Slaughter Me, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, all those hits.
Well, it makes sense. How does that band come together? And that band is excellent.
Mark never played on it. I mean, I think he played on, I can't even think of what he played on. Richie played on all the big records that you keep hearing over and over again. So that came about. We were inducted into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. And I was still pissed at what happened between me and Billy. So I said, I'm not going. Fuck it, I'm not going. And I was convinced when I talked to the other guys, they wanted to do it. I said, okay, I'll go. And they said, they want us to play one song. So I sent some other guy to do the sound check. I was so upset about it. I didn't want to go at all. But when I got there and we played.
Now, I'm sorry, but why were you pissed at Billy?
Oh, when we separated, you know, when we parted, it was cold. It was cold cut. Boom. You know.
How did that happen? How did you guys separate?
Well, so it was one of those she said, he said things where, you know, Billy's surrounded by a whole bunch of people all the time. The band, the crew, the management, everybody, you know, lawyers, everything. And he trusts everybody to do their job. And if somebody comes to him and says that I said something or I did something, and he doesn't come to me to ask me if it's true or not, I'll never know what was said by that person, and he'll never know if it was really true or not, or somebody, because there's a lot of backstabbing going on in the music business. You know, I mean,
well, you don't see that at all in comedy, though. I mean, there's no backstabbing. That never happens.
Never.
It's all kumbaya all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
no, we totally get it.
Somebody said something, and it wasn't for 15 years later until I had breakfast with him last February when I said, let's bury the hatchet, because we were going after each other in the press and everything, you know. But so what he heard wasn't true after all those years. You know, what happened was I should have gone to his house, stood in his driveway. When he pulled out, I should have stopped him and said, what's going on? What happened? What did you hear? Or what was said?
There's not enough in the bank. The history that you guys have, you started out when he really wasn't a superstar or anything. So you know, he knows you. He wouldn't come to you, like as a man, he wouldn't come to you and say, hey, Liberty, man, I heard some shit, you know, clear it up for me.
Right. No.
It never was done.
No. Well, yeah, you see, my Italian temper got the best of me, and I was like, fuck him. He was the same way. He was like, fuck him, you know? So,
so Joe Currie.
Yes.
I like, you know, listen, I don't really know Joe Currie, but I like Joe Currie. And I heard you before, man, because you're good friends with Anthony Cumia of the former Opie and Anthony show.
Anthony's been my friend, one of my closest friends since 1977.
How'd you guys hook up to? You guys had to be friends when you were kids.
Yeah, we wound up basically Anthony's brother Joe Currie came out this summer in 1977. Really good guy.
Also a musician.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay.
Right. And I was roadieing for the band. He goes, hey, my brother's coming out from California, starting school in September, man. I'm gonna have him, meet you. So I met up with him, and we were cracking jokes within 5 minutes. And you could just see the brilliance of the guy. And since that day, 1977, till this day now, he's one of my closest friends, one of the greatest guys in the world, one of the funniest guys ever in the world. Because when during the 80s, I worked at a fence company in Melville, New York, and I met this kid that was working with us, Adam Ferrara. And Adam was, and my buddy goes, yeah, this guy Adam is starting with us tomorrow. You'll like him. He's a funny guy. Adam and I did nothing but screw around the next day. So I go to Anthony's apartment later that day, and I go, we're hanging out at the OBI Friday night. There's this guy you got to meet, Adam. And he goes, we got our friends. I go, dude, he's one of us. And we met, and I've been friends with Adam since 1985. This was all before, comedy and stuff like that. So Adam goes, I want to start doing comedy, after I got out of college. So he went down to East Side Comedy, and he goes, I'm going to do an open mic. And he does the open mic, does phenomenal, winds up getting a lot of work out of that. I started about a year and a half later, but Anthony just stayed in the house and he didn't do anything. And I knew this brilliant comedy mind was just sitting there. So we had a band called Rot Gut that we had in the early 90s, and we did parodies, and we did a song, Gonna Electric Shock OJ, to the Walking on the Dock of the Bay. Opie from BAB, when he had the Nighttime Attitude, loved the song, invited Anthony's brother Joe and Anthony there. Anthony knew it was his chance, so he poured it on with all his voices and stuff like that, and he wound up being Opie's partner. About 6 months later, Opie said, I got a gig going to Massachusetts on WAAF. Would you go with me? And Anthony said, yeah, absolutely. And the rest was history. And he's one most brilliant comic minds ever.
Wow. How do they break up?
What happened is that 6 years ago, they were on vacation during the July 4th holiday, and Anthony was taking pictures in Broadway, and this woman accosted him, and punched him and stuff like that. So Anthony tweeted a bunch of nasty stuff, and then SiriusXM heard about it and said, well, we can't have this, and they let him go. If it was the next day, he never would have been fired, but he let him go because, quite frankly, we were thinking Sirius was looking to cut costs on everything, and he let him go. So he was sitting around the house, and Keith Maresca, his manager, was saying, you have the equipment down in the basement. Why don't you start your own network? So in August of 2014, he started the Anthony Cumia Show, and he's been doing very well, and good for him. He built his own network.
Yeah, no, both Sean and I have been on several shows on Compound Media.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we're familiar with that. Let's talk a little bit more about our show, Sean. We do a lot. When we don't have a guest, we'll do a bunch of top 10 type of things, top 10 debuts, stuff like that. So the question I want to ask both of you guys and everybody here.
Sure.
Start with Liberty. Give us your top 3 drummers. Guys, who you because we could argue this all the time, but we're talking to an expert here. Top 3 drummers.
I'm not an expert. I see drummers that are phenomenal when I see them playing, do solos and drum clinics and stuff like that. And I'm not a soloist. I only did one, and it was in that movie Hired Gun. That's the only time I ever did a drum solo.
A phenomenal movie, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Loved it.
Thanks, man. So my drummers, I like everybody loves Buddy Rich. Everybody's like, oh, Buddy Rich. Personally, I like Gene Krupa better. I thought he was better. There's another great jazz drummer, Joe Murillo, who played with Dave Brubeck. Fantastic drummer. As far as rock guys go, I used to love Mitch Mitchell and Ginger Baker. Those guys, Dino Danelli from the Rascals. Great drummers. So I mean, you could say that. Let's put it this way: if your drummer is in his right environment, he's great. If he's not going to be good. Like, you could take Buddy Rich, who everybody says is the greatest drummer in the world, and put him with, compare him to Larry Mullen, who plays with U2, and if you took Larry Mullen and put him with Buddy Rich's big band, he would suck. He'd say, that drummer sucks, man. He's just not doing anything. In the same way, if you put Buddy Rich in U2, you'd say, that guy is overplaying, man. He's terrible, So when you're in your own element, you're great. So when you see Neil Peart, too bad, dude.
Yeah.
But he was a great drummer in Rush. But I know for a fact that he tried to do a Buddy Rich big band thing, and he flopped on his face. So you have to be in your right environment. There's a lot of great R&B drummers that are unbelievable, but can't play rock and roll. It's really a strange strange thing how people pick out their favorite drummer. Usually it's like how fast they play that people love.
When I look at you and when you would play, I mean, like when you'd watch the bands that you were in, you stand out. And I think you're one of the drummers that have personality. And I kind of like put you with, do you know Myron? I think Myron Grobrocker. He played in and Keith Moon, guys who like are part of a band, but they have that personality that they stand out. Even Max from E Street Band, you know, it's as subtle as he is, he just plays hard, and you know he's an integral part of the band. So that's the way I kind of look at you as a drummer. That's why I kind of think that you're a great drummer in that regard.
I would agree. I would agree. You have that cachet. You know, the same with Max Weinberg. You know, you're that backbeat, that star rhythm section.
Right. Yeah. Well, one of my dear friends, Nico McBrain, you can't even see him behind the set, but you hear great drumming going on. You know, so I have the visual. You know, I make it look like I'm having fun, and I make it look like it's easy. You know, that's what people love. They feel like I'm with them. You know,
right?
Joe Currie, your top 3 drummers.
Yeah, I would say Neil Peart, Phil Collins, because Phil Collins has a lot of, you know, you could, if you listen to a Genesis song, you could see that a lot of the rhythm, it's very musical. It sounds weird, but very musical. It's not just keeping time, but it's a very musical thing what he throws in there, you know. And also it would be, I don't know the drummer's name, but I'm just going to state it. The rhythm section in the Dave Matthews Band, I think is phenomenal.
His name is Chester. I can't think of it now. What the hell's his name?
Sure, you're a big Dave Matthews fan, Ben?
I actually do like Dave Matthews.
Really?
I've seen him a bunch of times in concert, and I will agree that
he surprises me, this guy.
Yeah, one of the greatest things I ever saw was at Giant Stadium, seeing a Dave Matthews concert, and they were playing Ants Marching, and it's that one part where he goes people in every direction. It comes into the big cymbal crash, and a lightning bolt came it's like screaming out of the sky right as he hit the cymbal crash. Never forget that in my entire life.
So who are your 3 top drummers?
My top 3 drummers, Carter Beauford, is that the guy's name?
That's him. He's
Carter Beauford. Well, I would say number 1 because he's like the most animated. Like you can't watch him and not lose your mind as Charlie Watts from the Stones. I couldn't even do it with a straight face.
He's still going though.
He really is.
That guy, almost 80. Can we give Charlie Watts a break? He's almost 80.
I would say Dave Grohl, number 1.
Oh yeah.
Because he can play anything, and not even from the Nirvana era. I'm even talking about the Foo Fighters era, and I've seen him fill in for Queens of the Stone Age and bands like that.
Taylor Hawkins is great too from the Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
Oh, Taylor's amazing, and he's an amazing singer too, which people don't realize.
Really?
Yeah, he has a couple solo albums out where he sings and plays guitar. It's like kind of surfy California rock, really good stuff too.
He's a cool guy, man. I like him.
Oh, absolutely. One of my favorite live bands I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. I'm going to go a little more heavy metal with my other one. I'm going to go with a guy named Sal Abrascato, who's in a band called Typo Negative and Life of Agony. It's a very distinct sound, so I love that. And I'm going to go with Matt Sorum from The Cult and Guns N' Roses.
Oh, yeah, he's awesome.
And also throw Sorum into Velvet Revolver.
Yes.
He was in
the first album was outstanding. The second album was great, but that first album, especially in the mix, he had that sub bass in the mix where the low end on that was so good. You know, so good. Duff's always got that groove, and that low end plus with Sorum's drum, amazing album. Through every tune was a winner on that album.
If I have to pick 3, Sean, I'm going to go with Mickey Dolenz, Peter Criss, and the Kid from the Partridge Family. Those are going to be my top 3.
I got the first Chris or second Chris.
No, Peter Criss.
Original Chris.
Placed.
No, in the Partridge Family. First Chris or second Chris?
Oh no, second Chris. Come on, the first Chris was a hack. We know that. The second Chris, he was awesome.
I want to ask Liberty a question. What inspired you to write your book?
I'm just going to go with that.
I actually was just writing down my family history. It started with just my family history. My dad passed away probably 3 years ago at 91 years old, And I got to sit with him and a couple of my aunts and ask them what it was like, growing up and what they did and the family where we came from in Italy. And
where in Italy are you guys from?
Well, half of me is from Sicily, a place called Morial, and the other half is from Naples.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I figure you were going to say Calabria.
No, but that's right across from Sicily. There.
That's where my family's from.
Calabria.
Calabria and Bari.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why we have something in common, Sean. All right.
You can stand in Sicily and in Taormino and see Calabria. You could it's that close. But so I started to write it as a history of my family, and then I started to throw in some. When I got mad at Billy and we were at odds with each other, I said, I'm burying this. I'm burying that whole organization. And I wrote a lot of stuff. And but as I got older, I started to look at things from a different point of view. Like, why did Billy do what he did? I had to look at him like he was. His name is on the marquee. He's writing 14 songs for a new album. 4 of them have to be pop hits. He plays piano. He sings. He's taking care of road crews. He's paying for everything. And I'm the drummer in the band getting pissed off that we're going out in April instead of March, So I kind of like rounded out the rough edges in the book, and I didn't want it to be one of those, like some of these guys, they write the books about, I had sex with 12 chickens and,
that would have been a good book too.
Yeah. I like to leave it like read between the lines, So, so that's what happened. It took 15 years to actually put it together. I sent it to a bunch of publishers, and one came back and said, we love this kind of story. And then when I told Billy, it wasn't bad. I don't throw anybody under the bus. He kind of said, like, okay, I'll write you forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's cool. He wrote the forward. Great.
And the book is called Life, Billy, and the Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this podcast to get gigantic so I can write a tell-all book about Jeff. Because I hate that son of a bitch. Can I just tell you? Oh.
Yeah. So it's a story about my life and, the many roads that I took. There's so many people that say, well, I went to Berkeley and, that's how I'm going to make it. I'm going to go to Berkeley School of Music. No. I played clubs that were dumps and slept upstairs and did drugs and watched a dry cleaning bag dripping down into a pot, and I went down a dark roads too, and I was fortunate to be able to get out. Some guys I know never got out of those dark roads, So that's what this book is really about, my journey of how these immigrants came from Italy, and then two generations later, one of them is playing with one of the biggest single artists in the world. How did that happen,
How could people get the book? Do you have a website or
no.
Just Amazon?
Amazon.com. Yeah. It's we had them on Hudson Music, the publishers. I had to sign 2,000 of them, and they went like hotcakes. They were gone.
That's
so
great, man.
It's doing really well. I'm surprised.
Well, it's a great.
I'm not surprised.
Guys like you. It's because of guys like you that have me on the podcast.
Well, you'll definitely sell 7 more books because of this podcast. I'll tell you that right now.
That's right. And we're going to buy 2 each.
Hey, you're in there like with the Beatle channel. You're in there with Rolling Stone online.
I have a buddy, a good friend of mine, Dennis, who is a major fan of yours, major fan of Billy's. He'll probably buy 5.
Well, get to listen to the podcast.
Your gigs, everything.
Great.
I actually mentioned it to Dennis today that we were interviewing Liberty.
No, yeah.
He wanted me to ask a very bad question, which I'm not going to ask on the air.
No, yes.
And what about you, Joe Currie? What's going on in your life? Oh, weren't you writing a screenplay?
Yeah, I have a couple of things cooking. I have a screenplay. It's called The Weight of the World, and it's about a bunch of people that are trying to lose weight. We have it as a musical. We still might pitch it as a musical. We're doing a web series on it. I just got to figure out how to get the frickin' YouTube page up. And then there's another project that I'm working on that's about, it's actually based on my life that Davin and I are working on. And then I have my bands. I got my original band, Fragile Sky. I have my cover band that I play in called Funky Monks. It's a Red Hot Chili Peppers cover band with Anthony Cumia and Joe Currie. And then I have my other band called Sexy Susan, which is a compile of all Jersey and New York musicians. And we're opening up for, I think, Angel in October out on the island.
Angel? Is Drew Free still in the band?
No, he's not. But the other guys are. So we got to get, I think it's October 8th or something like that.
Where's that?
At Revolution. Is it Revolution? No, it's what's the place out?
There is a place on Long Island called Revolution.
Yeah, not Revolution. It's 89 North. 89 North.
Is that an indoor show or an outdoor show?
It's an indoor show. So you know what? It's like we'll see. We'll see what happens. You know, I mean, it's like the clubs are. I mean, Governors. James, the owner of Governors, has really gone out of his way to get the 3 Governors clubs open. I mean, they have the outside room.
They're doing outside.
Yeah, and also they're doing inside with all social distancing. They have plexiglass all over the place.
Oh, so they're able to do an indoor show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long Island's not New York City.
Yeah, and basically because there are a restaurant and not a bar. So what they do is they have plexiglass in the front of the stage, and then they have social distancing and people have to wear masks and everything like that. And they're giving it a shot. I mean, after that, there's nothing going on in comedy. I don't know about you guys. My last gig was March 14th. I'm supposed to be with Adam Ferrara at Mohegan sometime in October. We'll see if that goes. But after that, that's it. There ain't nothing.
I'm looking to wrap this up because I got a show tonight and I'm at QED tomorrow night. I mean, it's coming back slowly. I mean, like we were talking about before about, working harder and getting paid a lot less than before. But I mean, you got to keep the muscle moving and you got to keep going forward. And hopefully, sooner rather than later, things start to come back.
Maybe plexiglass in front of the stage will bring back throwing bottles at the band again.
Yeah. Now, how are they doing at this club that you're working at tonight?
Tonight, it's an outdoor show under a tent called the Mason Jar in Mawa, something like that. It's in New Jersey, Mawa. And tomorrow night, QED, that's the club that Christian Finnegan's wife owns. They're lucky enough, it's in Queens, and they're lucky enough to have a backyard, like a patio, and it's a socially distanced show. But I mean, in New York, I live in New York, in New York, and there's nothing indoors, and it doesn't look like there's any hope for anything to be indoors for the rest of the year. And I talk about Jersey.
Lords of 52nd Street are doing in Milford. We're doing a drive-in show, one of those.
Oh, we've done. Sean and I just did a drive-in show about a week or so ago. Yeah. I know they sit in their cars and they listen to it. Like, are you guys playing it over a radio station, or are you, because like we did it over the radio, or are you guys having like a speakers?
Well, I think they got both because people like to get out.
Okay.
Who knows? It's something's got to come back. People are dying for live music.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, live music, live entertainment. Yeah, just to hear a band. And a couple of my, like I said, in my one band, Sexy Susan, there's a whole bunch of musicians in that band. My lead singer, she plays with this band Tuned Up. They've done a couple of shows, and a couple other people have been doing gig. Everybody's trying. Everybody's giving it a shot. We'll go out, we'll do some time, do some tunes, and we'll see what happens. And if
I just saw Grace Potter, who's an amazing artist. She's playing an outdoor restaurant in the middle of down the shore, New Jersey.
Where would she normally play? She was just on
Daryl's house. She would play
That's
PNC.
Where I just saw her.
She would play PNC Arts Center, and she would probably sell that place out with her band. And now she's playing solo acoustic in the back of a restaurant outside down the shore in Jersey. Almost Queen, the Queen tribute band, is playing the parking lot of the Garden State Plaza Mall in Paramus.
Yeah,
and charging $250 a car.
Yeah, they do good business. Almost Queen does well, but I know the drummer. I used to play with him, John Capadona, and he took a big hit. I mean, he took a major hit in money because he lost all their gigs. They started to get their feet wet again. So yeah, I mean, they did an outdoor gig, I think, on the island a couple of weeks ago. They're doing this, so yeah, I mean, you got to try that. That's their livelihood, man.
We only got 2 months
left. Where they're
left.
playing again. So in case we have listeners in New Jersey, in case they want to go see them. Where are they playing?
The Garden State Plaza parking lot, the biggest mall in New Jersey. They're playing the parking lot of the mall.
Jesus Christ, man.
Amazing. Before we wrap this up, I got two things I want to say. Everybody always asks me what my favorite joke is from a comic, and I never give a big name. I never say Chris Rock or anything like that. I always say two jokes. The first one, and Joe knows who this person is a great guy who passed away. His name is Vince D'Antona. And he was a ventriloquist, and one of the jokes was he would say he'd had the puppet on his lap, and the puppet's name was George. So he would go, George would say, Vince, I have a problem. What was the problem? I had to go to the doctor today. What's the matter? Every time I sneeze, I have an orgasm. Oh, yeah? What do you take? Pepper. And that's one. Makes me laugh every time. The second one I always quote is a joke of Joe Currie's.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. I'm not kidding, because I've worked with you a bunch of times.
Right.
And the joke is, you ever see that commercial when you're buying the engagement ring and it says every kiss begins with K? Yeah, but it better end with BJ.
Yeah.
And I laugh my balls off every time I hear that joke. So I want to just give you credit for that. I also want to give a shout out to my a good friend of the show, Mike Massiello, for helping getting us Liberty on the show today. And I think this was a great interview. I'm glad I hope you guys had fun.
I had a great time, and it was so nice to meet Liberty. It really was an honor.
It's great to be with you guys too. I just want to know, Sean, what did your friend want you to ask me?
Oh,
ask it. Come on.
Come on.
All right, I gotta look at it really quick. Hold on. It's something about a girl named Maureen.
While we're waiting for Sean, just to let everybody know, next week we have coming up on the show is Bobby Collins.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Collins.
Love Bobby.
It's about a woman named Maureen Smith. Do you know who Maureen Smith is?
I do.
Okay. That's all I need. I had to just drop the name, and I'm
Are you happy, Dennis? Stupid.
Yeah. Thanks, Dennis. Everybody, go on Amazon, get Liberty's book. I am actually going to order it tomorrow because I get paid tomorrow. So I'm going to order that tomorrow, and we're going to check it out. And thank you guys for being on the show.
Thank you for having us, man. Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.
We appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Be well, everybody.
Take care, man. Be good.